You notice it not because it interrupts anything, but because nothing needs to adjust around it. No pause. No internal shift that asks for your attention. Just a sense that something is present without requiring recognition. It doesn't arrive with the familiar signs. There's no emotional lift, no drop, no tightening that signals importance. Your day continues at the same pace. Thoughts move the way they already were. And that is what makes this moment strange, because it fits too easily. Earlier, anything meaningful came with friction. It pulled at you, asked something of you, demanded response. This doesn't. It doesn't lean toward you or away from you. It doesn't ask to be examined. You could miss it entirely and nothing would change. And yet, something in you notices the absence of disturbance, even if you don't name it. That quiet absence doesn't resolve itself. It stays unresolved, hovering just beneath awareness, not asking to be clarified, only noticed. And the fact that it doesn't insist lingers. You recognize what's being pointed to without feeling pulled into it. There's no spark of curiosity that wants to follow the thread further. No internal voice saying this matters. Recognition happens, then passes, like a sound you hear without turning toward it. In the past, recognition came with energy. It created momentum. You wanted to do something with it, reflect, adjust, respond. Now, nothing activates. This isn't disinterest. Disinterest still has an edge to it. This is softer than that. Neutral. The words don't land as true or false. They don't need agreement. They don't create resistance either. They simply pass through a system that doesn't reorganize around them. And what's subtle, but important, is that nothing inside you tries to hold on to them. There's no urge to store them for later. No sense that you'll need to return to this moment to understand it better. The lack of follow-up is quiet, but precise. Something completes itself without asking you to notice that it did. After encountering this, nothing echoes. No replay. No delayed reaction that shows up later when you're alone. The moment doesn't trail behind you asking to be processed. Earlier, things that mattered created aftermath. They stayed with you. They resurfaced in quiet moments. They demanded integration. This doesn't. It ends exactly where it begins. Life doesn't pause to accommodate it. Decisions still happen. Attention still moves. Your internal rhythm remains unchanged. And that uninterrupted flow becomes noticeable only because you're used to interruption. Used to being pulled off course by things that mattered. Used to internal reverberation. Here, there is none. Not because nothing landed, but because it landed where nothing needed rearranging. The system doesn't circle back. It doesn't check whether something was missed. It doesn't create doubt. That lack of circling is unfamiliar enough to stand out quietly, even as everything continues. In earlier moments, messages hit an edge. They provoked tension, disagreement, or excitement. You felt yourself push against them or lean into them. That edge isn't here. Nothing inside argues. Nothing defends. Nothing reacts. The words don't press against identity. They don't suggest a direction. They don't threaten to change anything. And because there is no edge, there is no heat. This is where the mind might try to reintroduce friction, wondering if this calm means disengagement, wondering if something important is being overlooked. But look closely. You're not pulling away. You're simply not being hooked. The message doesn't attach itself to who you are or who you're becoming. It doesn't become a reference point. It finishes itself the moment it's noticed. You start to notice this pattern elsewhere. Ideas that once would have pulled you inward now register and pass. Insights that once would have mattered no longer reorganize anything. You still understand them. You just don't need them. Earlier, attention moved toward anything that promised orientation. Now attention rests more easily. It moves when required and stays still when nothing calls it forward. Not because you decided to stop seeking, but because seeking no longer has leverage. Messages used to matter because they closed a gap. Now the gap isn't there. And when there's no gap, messages lose urgency. They arrive without consequence. They don't position you. They don't orient you. They simply appear and fade. At some point, it becomes clear, without being stated, that whatever this was meant to move you toward is no longer ahead of you. Time feels different here. Not slower. Not faster. Just less demanding. You're not waiting for clarity before moving. You're not anticipating a signal that tells you when to act. If something appears, you respond. If nothing does, nothing feels missing. Identity softens without effort. You're less invested in describing where you are or what phase you're in. The need to locate yourself fades. Misunderstanding no longer tightens anything. If others don't see what you see, nothing collapses. You don't need alignment to remain coherent. Even the impulse to monitor your state quiets. You're not checking whether this still resonates. You're not confirming that you're past something. The system isn't asking for confirmation. At a certain point, even the idea of being past something loses relevance. There's no sense of arrival that needs to be marked. No transition that needs to be named. Forgetting this doesn't change anything. Remembering it doesn't add anything. The state doesn't depend on attention. It doesn't degrade without thought. It holds on its own. Messages like this stop functioning as guidance. They don't point forward. They don't point inward. They barely point at all. And that irrelevance is exact. If this were pointing to something unfinished, it would pull you. It would ask something of you. The fact that it doesn't is the only confirmation there ever was. If this resonated quietly, there was nothing here to do, nothing to carry, nothing to apply. And the noticing of that, if it happens at all, passes just as quietly as it arrived.